Hello and welcome to Business on the Wire. The last week has seen deep cuts and some confusion in the stock market. A market that's been actually surprising people by its ability to fight the very obvious bad economic news and climb from strength to strength. Many have wondered when the proverbial crash might happen. A couple of things, of course, have happened to combine together and cause some trouble for the stock market, one more than the others that I will get to in a little bit. First up, global markets. They've been seeing some pressure, and that has had a knock on effect on our market as well. There have been days where the Indian market has opened up to rather somber news from the US, and that's caused an impact both on the Sensex and Nifty. Added to that, of course, there were a couple of other dampeners for sentiment and trade largely. One was the fact that India China border tension seems to be spiking. There doesn't seem to be a resolution on that issue, and our markets have reacted to it. On the other hand, there was also a thumbs down from the market given what came out from the GDP figures and close to a 24% downtick. Both of those did not go down well with the stock market, I think. There is some concern for banks after the Supreme Court directed banks not to declare any loans that were standard as of end of August as non-performing or bad until further orders. And I think that's put a bit of a question mark on the future of public sector banks going ahead. But there's been a bigger change, and that may hit many worry. Trading opportunities for people. Trading activity in shares, of course, has gone up quite considerably in the last couple of months. In fact, there's been a jump, of quite a few multiples in this post-COVID-19 period because of the way stock markets have been performing and because of the gains that we've been seeing. Now, SEBI, or the Securities Exchange Board of India, has set out a new set of rules regarding stock trading to be implemented between the 1st of September and the 1st of December. So, what are the key changes? Let's just walk through some of the main ones. The decision, by the way, first comes on the back of the Karvi disaster in 2019, where the broker actually used loopholes within the system to use investors' money for its own benefit. So, SEBI's new rules are seemingly meant to strengthen the regulatory framework in such a way that that kind of misuse doesn't happen again, either in the cash market or in the futures and options market. So, as I said, a couple of the key changes that SEBI has put forth at this point. Stocks will remain in an investor's demat account. They can be directly pledged to the clearing house or clearing corporation, NSDL or CSDL. But now you need to authorize a pledge request in favor of your broker, who will then repledge it with the clearing corporation for actually allowing your margin benefit. That's one. The second one is that it's now mandatory for brokers to collect margins from investors upfront for any purchase or sale of shares. In fact, failing to do that will actually attract a penalty on the client's behalf. You also cannot assign a power of attorney to your broker anymore for pledging, something you could do earlier. Margin changes are important because up until now, clients needed to meet margin requirements in their account at the end of the day. Now, with these new margin rules, you need to fulfill your margin obligations at the beginning of the day. So, joining me to talk about these changes is Nitin Kamath. He's founder and CEO of Zerodha. It's an online platform that's now India's largest stock brokerage with over 3 million clients, and they have a strong pulse on what's happening with the retail sentiment and, of course, whether this decision impacts trading volumes. Nitin, thanks for joining in and having this conversation with me. First, I want to address the intent behind these moves. Do you think that the changes announced by SEBI have successfully addressed the concerns around client safety? Because all this basically exploded around the Karvi episode. Do you think what SEBI's done has successfully mitigated that risk?
To a certain extent it has, right? But the I think the real problem in all this is this unregulated wealth management of sorts that brokers do, right? Which is a relationship manager or someone in the organization promises an X amount of return to the customer and ends up taking aggressive risk to reach that X amount of X percentage return, right? And then once that goes bad, then to cover up, you end up doing a bunch of things which can potentially put the customer at risk, right? And that risk still exists, and I don't even know how it's really possible to cover that risk,
Yeah.
right? Because as long as customers are going to believe that there is something called low risk, high returns, someone's going to sell them that product, right? Unfortunately, in the stock markets, there is nothing like that, right? As in, if someone's telling you he's going to give you 3% a month, he's going to take incredible amounts of risk with that money to give you 3% a month. So yeah, so that does cover, but a lot of these other issues that where brokers were taking excessive risks, that reduces significantly with some of these things. But overall, the problem still exists. Even if you look at not the Karvi episode, but a lot of the smaller broker episodes, it was all around wealth management, which went bad, right?
Yeah.
Brokers offered high returns and promised high returns. Employees of brokers, and then like I said, I don't know how that can really be fixed.
One of your peers described all the changes announced by SEBI, Nitin, as a shift from post-paid to prepaid. Is it as simplistic as that?
Yeah, so it is. It's quite. So the thing is, from the day we started the business, we were completely prepaid, right? In the sense, if a customer wants to buy stock at Zerodha, he has to put money up front, and he has to trade after that, right? So there was never any risk that we as a broker took, right? And our USP was around the product, which is we offer, we have always tried to offer a superior product, and that's what we were hoping attracts the customers. And also because it was prepaid, because the customer was putting money upfront, the risk we take as a business was incredibly less, which meant we could also disrupt on the pricing. So we don't charge any brokerage for equity delivery trades, right? The reason we don't charge is because we don't take any amount of risk on those trades. Now, customer puts in 1 lakh rupees and then he buys 1 lakh rupees of stocks, right? For us, our revenue kind of exists from the active traders, which is your futures and options and intraday traders, and they kind of end up subsidizing the investors. It is but what happened was as we grew in terms of our product, a lot of those incumbents who couldn't really grow in terms of products and tech, they ended up trying to create USPs in things like this, such as you buy the stock, pay me money later, or I will give you a lot of leverage for intraday trading or for margin funding, etc. But the issue with having USPs around there is you end up taking higher risk as a broker. And every once in a while, when there is a lot of volatility in the markets, or when your risk gets concentrated to a few customers who are really large, one or two of them, kind of not paying up or stuff like that can actually bring a broker down. They end up taking almost systemic kind of risk. So that angle is now covered. SEBI has done a great job in making sure that there isn't almost a regulatory arbitrage of sorts, because until now there was this arbitrage that existed for people who wanted to take more risk. It's almost on the lines of how the RBI came and said for loan against securities, haircut has to be 50% standard across, right? And as soon as that was done, you haven't really heard of any issues because of loan against securities, right? Because it's so under leveraged as a product today.
Sure. Let me address the big concern, though, Nitin, that's raging in the market as we saw last week and perhaps will, which is around volumes. The fact that this change in margin system, etc., is going to impact volumes. A, do you think it will? And B, do you see this as a short-term disruption, or do you think this is going to alter the the DNA of the market in terms of trading volumes itself?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to reduce the volumes for sure. So. Because one of the things that a lot of brokers did, the traditional ones, is that if there was stock sitting in your demat account, they used to give you margin on that without customer pledging the stock. Yeah. That means, say assuming I had 10 lakh rupees of stocks in my demat, I'll come log into my trading account, I'll see 6 lakh rupees as trading balance, which I can use to trade. All right, but today you can't do that. Right? The customer has to first explicitly pledge it. Only then the broker can give the margin, right? And every time you add a hop of sorts, the friction increases and the generally across not just trading anywhere, right? Every hop you add, the volumes significantly reduce. So I think it's going to reduce. I think the reduction is going to be even more accentuated from December onwards when SEBI's rules around intraday leverages start kicking in. Because today there are brokers who give a lot of intraday leverage, and as and when that reduces, most trading volumes today actually comes from intraday trading,
Yep.
right? If you more than delivery trading. So while delivery business might reduce, I think once the December circular kicks in, I think it'll kind of reduce even more. But one of the good things that has happened this year is we have suddenly had this rush of new investor interest, right? So maybe the hope here is that the market expands and compensates for the whatever these circulars can reduce in terms of trading volumes.
When you say that you expect to see a dip in volumes, though, what are you penciling in? 10%, more than that? How sharp is this volume dip going to be?
See, the thing is, trading volumes on the exchanges is firstly dependent on volatility, right?
Yeah.
Like March, April, May was extremely volatile. Even though most brokers didn't offer intraday leverages, a lot of them cut back on funding and all of that. But you still saw trading volumes at the highest ever, right? So I think when we're talking trading volumes, we also have to kind of factor in the volatility in the markets. But if say there was no volatility, I think at least like a 15-20% dip until December, and maybe more from December onwards.
I like how you're saying that with a straight face, Nitin. That is a big knock. That is a big knock for a market that basically, I think the juice of this market is the fact that it's got such healthy volumes, right? The other fear, Nitin, is the fact that this market will probably get a bit more polarized, where you have your 100, 150 stocks which have more depth, more liquidity sloshing around, and those will continue to perform, but a larger part of the market may start getting squeezed even more because of these changes. Do you agree with that observation?
Yeah, I guess so. Because as and when, if you look at what's happened to Nifty and Bank Nifty, your derivative contracts, today in derivatives, all the trading volumes have kind of drifted towards these two contracts, right? And now, as and when these other regulations, restrictions kind of kick in, I think you're absolutely right. I think the volume will get even more concentrated to the top 50, 100 stocks, and which is a little bit of a challenge actually, right? As in, especially for the stocks which are outside the top 100, there's already lesser volumes, and if that volume were to reduce even more, your impact cost goes up significantly, which is every time someone's trying to buy or sell, especially large quantities of stocks, you want to get hit quite a bit in terms of the impact cost.
I want to go back to the point you made about how retail interest was really picking up, especially in terms of trading this market, not just via SIPs and investing. Which pocket of the market did you see activity pick up in, Nitin? Were they largely playing an intraday trade, in the cash market, or did you start seeing interest actually picking up in the derivatives market?
I mean, this year, whatever activity pickup has been on stocks. There's nothing really that's picked up in terms of derivatives.
Okay.
When I'm saying derivatives, I'm talking retail investment, the kind of customers we attract. So majority of our customers, the audience that has started trading in the market this year has been that 20 to 30-year-olds, like first time to markets. Our average age of a customer was 32. It's around 28, 29 now. So it's actually dropped like 3 years in the last 6-7 months. And the heartening thing here is that these guys are mostly doing equity investing. So they're buying stocks, but they're very active. So they're buying and selling quite frequently, but they're not really doing intraday and all of that. So which is good. And what we've done, I mean, not to be selling what we do, but what we've done at Zerodha is we've kind of built in a bunch of rules to ensure the customers, at least the first-time customers, are aware of some of the risks of the business. Like for example, we don't allow customers to buy penny stocks, right? And even if they want to buy penny stocks, we firstly scare the shit out of them, saying it can lose a lot of money, and then if they still want to proceed, we put in all these layers. So someone has to install a Google Authenticator, then enter a TOTP and things like that. So at least at Zerodha, we have seen that after us doing this, the interest in penny stocks has also dipped significantly. So that way, but the issue, I think, with a lot of retail investors is, they end up kind of moving in herds. Like last year, everyone was trying to buy Yes Bank. This year, essentially what happens, I think, the big problem for retail investors is they always try to go buy stocks which aren't doing well and expect it to somehow suddenly start doing well. So
Warren Buffett moment.
right. So and yeah, so we are, as a broker, trying to explain them that it's always best to be in stocks which do well, and kind of change their biases. But coming back to the point, I think it's mostly equity investing that has happened. Activity is picked around stocks, and yeah, short-term investing, but around stocks.
So, two-part question for you, Nitin. One, the SEBI's made its stand quite clear. Do you think this is still open to any kind of discussion if indeed this concern regarding volume is, put forward to them again? And secondly, do you see this impacting the prospects of the market if, the fact that access becomes more difficult, trading becomes more difficult? Do you think that's going to be a negative for the market?
No, see, the thing is, what SEBI has done, the community, the broking community will probably hate me for it, but maybe it's for the better in the long run, while it's going to create a lot of pain in the short term, right? This whole pledge, the new pledge, repledge kind of mechanism is extremely safe for the customer now, because your security is always sitting in your demat account, right? It's not going to a third-party broker account where you're taking a risk. Right, so it's extremely beneficial. Now, the other thing which is around intraday leverages, like I personally think SEBI maybe should have allowed brokers to offer intraday leverage as long as the broker is doing it from his own capital, and not. One of the concerns SEBI had was that a broker uses A person's capital to fund, right, B person's capital, and B person's trading. Now, whatever the rules and regulations SEBI has brought in today, it's not possible to do that anymore. If someone's giving any leverage, the broker is doing, has to do it from his own capital. And if that is the scene, I think, you should maybe allow brokers to do it, because I think the actual trading volume hit will kind of start happening once those leverages starts getting squeezed, right? And the pain over the last 1-2 weeks was more, I think, more teething issues. It is, I don't think the depositories, clearing corporations, their systems were ready to handle this sudden shift. Okay. And thankfully, they came out with a circular saying that there won't be any margin penalties until September 15th. So which means that everyone gets this 2 weeks time where, you can transition into this new margining system. Right. And the third thing here is that, in this whole, allowing clients to buy stocks without taking any money from them, which was how the industry has run till now. It was just waiting, it is a systemic risk. It's just waiting for one day, one issue, one really volatile day to, bring a big broker down, right? Because if, say, one large customer was able to buy, say, 1,000 crores of stocks without putting any money upfront, and say that stock were to collapse, right? And say he decided to not fund the purchase, it was in a sense a systemic risk, so which is not there anymore, right? So while this is in the short term, it's going to affect everyone, but I think in the long run it's okay. It's not like one of those things that will kill the industry. But the issue here, though, is that this broking industry in India is very fragmented. So there are probably 400-500 retail brokers. And out of 400-500, maybe 15-20 are online and product first kind of brokers. The remaining 380-390, whatever, they were all working on this relationship based model where people they used to ask for money after a trade, or they and things like that, and they're probably going to be most affected with this. So like how volumes will probably get concentrated in the top 100 stocks, I think this industry will get concentrated amongst the top 10-20 brokers even more. And I think what maybe SEBI should do is allow these mergers between brokers to happen a lot more easier, because today it's extremely painful for two broking entities to come together. And they should maybe make it easier for like a bunch of brokers to come together and create one entity and kind of reduce their costs, because that's the only way the tail will be able to survive this.
Yeah. What would your advice be to people who are, sort of investing the market, but with an inclination towards trading within? Because I think, some of what happened last week was also a level of panic amongst retail, saying, "What's happened? All these changes, my trade isn't going through. Why couldn't it get, sort of closed within the day?" So, and there is that level of confusion still. What would the 1, 2, 3 sort of pieces of advice be that you would set forth for them?
Right. No, see, thing is, I think some of the brokers. See, today most brokers use back office vendors to kind of enable their trades, right? So, actually, nothing has changed for say a customer at Zerodha, right? As in, if you're a customer at Zerodha, you can buy the stock today, you can sell it tomorrow, use the funds to buy more stocks, or you could sell your stock holding today and use it to buy more stocks. So nothing, before September 1st and now, nothing has changed, right? And if it is changed at a certain brokers, it's going to get corrected in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So all of these brokers are kind of rewiring their back offices, so it doesn't really change too much, right? So I don't think retail investors are actually going to be affected. I think the ones who will be affected are more, like the HNI types who are getting all these privileges from the from the brokers. I think they're a smarter lot. They've probably already figured how to maneuver this. This retail, the whole noise in social media, I think a lot of that is uncalled for, because I think in the next 2-3 weeks everything is going to settle down, and life will almost be exactly like how it was before. Because today most of the retail trading is concentrated in the top 10-15 brokers, and all of them are online. All of them collect margins first. All of them, so they've all been doing what the regulations have asked them to do, now. So the only issue is this selling a stock and allowing the money proceeds to buy something else. I think that requires a little bit of rewiring at the back office, and I think the industry will be ready in the next 2 weeks.
Just one final question, Nitin, because you have a really good, finger on the pulse of what retail is up to at this point. What's your sense of how participation towards the market will move over the next few months? There is a degree of surprise, between the sort of bipolar nature of the economic news versus the stock market. And we do know that SIPs have been going down. So perhaps people are liquidating, some of their stock market holdings. But it's interesting from what you said that there's actually been a big upsurge in trading. Do you reckon that investment and interest by retail in the market is going to remain quite strong?
Yeah, no, see, the thing is the interest, the upsurge is in this 20 to 30-year-old audience, right? People who are first time to the market.
Yeah.
And the ones who already had stocks, etc. So it's kind of a dichotomy. They're behaving differently in both the places, right? Like a 40-plus-year-old is behaving differently to how a 20 to 30-year-old is behaving. Now, the 20 to 30-year-old is looking at this as an opportunity to kind of enter the markets because the prices are low, right? But the 40-year-old is probably panicking, thinking, what, economy is going nowhere.
The prices are low. I didn't buy at this price, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but I don't know why it's going up, to be very honest, right? As in, but the thing is, the big advantage of being in India is that we have crazy number of 20 to 30-year-olds, right? As in, we have the largest number of 20 to 30-year-olds in the world. So I think the market's going to continue expanding there, right? Because there is so many more people coming to the markets. Now the 40-year-old crowd, I don't really know how it's gonna pan out. I think they are a little more circumspect. They probably understand economy and. But as long as people are being circumspect, I think markets usually goes against the consensus, right? Which is, if me and you are pessimistic, probably market's going to continue going up, right? And yeah, but I think the 20 to 30-year-old crowd, I think it'll expand even more, a lot more. The potential there is really huge.
Super, wonderful speaking with you, Nitin. Thank you for taking time out and chatting with me today. Thanks a lot.
Right. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, Mithali.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.